Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Alien professor assigns students to catch a rare creature, but human tames it instantly. The alien professor, towering over the students, tapped his long, segmented fingers against the control panel of his floating podium. His 4 eyes scanned the room, pausing briefly on each student. Some were covered in shimmering scales, others had translucent skin that pulsed with faint light. A few had wings folded neatly against their backs, while others lacked any visible limbs at all, relying on tentacle-like appendages to manipulate objects. Among this diverse group, only one human stood out, Harry Leem. He was seated near the back of the circular lecture hall, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "Today's challenge will test more than just your strength or intelligence," the professor announced, his voice reverberating through the vast chamber. "It will determine your ability to anticipate, adapt, and outthink an opponent that cannot be reasoned with." His gaze lingered on Harry for a fraction of a second longer than the others before he pressed a button on his console. A holographic image flickered to life above the podium, displaying a sleek quadrupedal creature with a long, whip-like tail, sharp feline features, and piercing silver eyes. Its dark, iridescent fur shimmered as though reflecting unseen light sources. The students murmured in recognition, some shifting uncomfortably. "This," the professor continued, "is the Skrin beast native to the storm-ravaged plains of Rios 4. It is one of the most evasive and dangerous creatures in the known galaxy. Its agility is unmatched, its reflexes near instantaneous. It has no natural predators, and every known attempt to domesticate it has ended in failure." He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle. "Your objective is simple: capture it." A wave of murmurs swept through the room. Some students exchanged nervous glances, while others whispered strategies among themselves. Harry remained silent. He had heard of the Skrin beast before, though only in passing. Unlike the others, he wasn't dreading the challenge, he was intrigued by it. The professor flicked his wrist, and the hologram vanished. "No weapons, no advanced technology. You may use only your intelligence and teamwork. The creature has been released into the enclosed training ground behind this hall. You have 3 hours. Begin." The students wasted no time. They rushed toward the exit, eager to claim victory before their peers. Harry followed, his pace steady. He wasn't in a hurry. He had learned long ago that patience often won battles before they even began. The training ground was vast, a carefully simulated environment designed to replicate the rocky plains of Rios 4. Towering stone formations jutted from the ground at odd angles, and a thick mist rolled across the uneven terrain, distorting visibility. Somewhere in the distance, a faint, guttural growl echoed, a warning not of aggression but of awareness. The Skrin beast knew it was being hunted. Harry watched as the other students fanned out, each species employing its own strategy. The reptilian Clikians, known for their natural camouflage, pressed themselves against the rocks, their scales shifting colors to blend seamlessly with the terrain. The winged Eants took to the air, scanning the ground below in tight formations, their keen eyesight searching for movement. The Xenians, whose metallic bodies housed advanced neural processors, remained at a distance, running calculations on the creature's possible escape routes. Harry sighed. It was all too predictable. These species, for all their advanced evolution, still thought in rigid patterns. They relied on their natural strengths, never considering that the Skrin beast might already anticipate those very methods. A sudden shriek rang out. One of the Eants had dived too close. In a blur of motion, the Skrin beast sprang from the shadows, lashing out with its tail. The force sent the unfortunate student tumbling through the air before crashing into the rocky ground. Before anyone could react, the creature disappeared into the mist once more. Harry crouched low, scanning the environment. He wasn't interested in brute force tactics. If this creature was as intelligent as the professor claimed, then brute force wouldn't work. He needed to understand it, to observe its patterns, its behaviors, its motivations. While the others continued their pursuit, he remained still. He listened, letting the sounds of the environment wash over him. The shifting of loose stones, the occasional scrape of claws against rock, the controlled, rhythmic breathing of a predator lying in wait. The Skrin beast wasn't just running, it was watching, studying. A small smirk played at the corner of Harry's lips. He understood it now. This wasn't just a game of pursuit, it was a test of patience, of strategy. The Skrin beast wasn't going to be caught, it was waiting for the hunters to exhaust themselves. Harry reached into his backpack, pulling out a ration bar. He unwrapped it slowly, deliberately, allowing the scent to drift into the air. If the creature was as perceptive as he suspected, it would pick up on it. Minutes passed. The other students continued their futile chase, unaware of what was happening behind them. Then a flicker of movement. Silver eyes gleamed in the mist. Harry remained still. He didn't make a sound, didn't shift his posture. The creature took a cautious step forward, its nostrils flared, detecting the unfamiliar scent. Another step. Harry broke off a piece of the ration bar and placed it on the ground beside him. He didn't throw it, didn't offer it directly. He simply left it there, as if it didn't matter whether the creature took it or not. A moment of hesitation, then, with a grace that was almost hypnotic, the Skrin beast closed the distance. It sniffed the offering, then snapped it up in one swift motion. Harry exhaled slowly. It wasn't running anymore, it was watching him, evaluating him. And for the first time, the hunter had stopped being the prey. Harry remained perfectly still, his breath measured, as the Skrin beast's silver eyes stayed locked onto him. The creature had already taken the first piece of food, but it hadn't yet decided what to make of him. Its body was tense, poised to bolt at the slightest sign of hostility. Harry knew that any sudden movement would send it back into the mist, and this fragile moment of connection would be lost. He needed to keep it engaged to show that he wasn't a threat. The distant sounds of the other students echoed through the rocky terrain. Shouts, hurried footsteps, the occasional frustrated growl from those who had underestimated the creature's speed. None of them were close. They were too busy chasing shadows, exhausting themselves in a game they couldn't win. Harry knew the Skrin beast was aware of them too. It had learned to anticipate hunters long before this challenge. Slowly, he broke off another piece of the ration bar, holding it loosely between his fingers before placing it gently on the ground in front of him. He made no direct gestures, no attempt to lure the creature closer. The Skrin beast flicked its ears, watching him with sharp intelligence. And then it moved. Its steps were slow, deliberate as it crept forward, its tail hovering just above the ground, shifting slightly with each careful motion. The beast lowered its head, sniffing the air again before cautiously taking the second offering. This time it didn't retreat immediately. It chewed, watching Harry with an expression he could only describe as curious. He waited, rushing this would ruin everything. He needed the Skrin beast to make the next move. The creature took another step closer. It was still cautious, but the tension in its body had lessened. It had realized something. Harry wasn't like the others. He wasn't chasing it. He wasn't treating it like a prize to be won. That difference, however small, had changed everything. Harry reached into his pack again, but this time, instead of another piece of food, he pulled out a small, cloth-wrapped bundle. He placed it beside him and slowly unwrapped it, revealing strips of dried meat. The scent filled the air immediately, much stronger than the bland ration bar. The Skrin beast's ears perked up, its body shifting forward slightly before it caught itself and froze. This was the moment Harry had been waiting for. He didn't offer the meat immediately. Instead, he let the creature decide. He knew from experience that the fastest way to lose trust was to force an interaction. The Skrin beast needed to believe it was in control. Minutes passed. The creature's muscles twitched with indecision. It had never encountered something like this before, prey that didn't run, a hunter that didn't chase. It was out of its element. Then, cautiously, it lowered its head again, sniffing the dried meat. It hesitated, then took the first strip between its sharp teeth. A rustle in the distance shattered the quiet moment. Someone was approaching, moving quickly. Harry knew immediately that if the others saw the Skrin beast standing near him, they would ruin everything. It would only take one aggressive move to send it fleeing again. He exhaled slowly, keeping his body relaxed. The creature flicked its ears, sensing the approaching presence, and for a moment Harry thought it might bolt. But it didn't. Instead, it turned its head toward the direction of the noise, its silver eyes narrowing as it observed the approaching figure. The Skrin beast wasn't just reacting anymore, it was making a decision. And Harry realized with a quiet thrill he was no longer just the observer, he was becoming part of the hunt. The moment stretched, fragile as a strand of silk, as the Skrin beast remained still beside Harry. It had made a choice, not to flee, not to lash out, but to stay. He could feel the shift in the creature's posture, the way its breathing had slowed, its muscles no longer coiled in preparation for escape. It was aware of the approaching figure just as he was, but something had changed. It wasn't just reacting, it was waiting. Harry turned his head slightly, careful not to make any sudden movements. His eyes locked onto the rocky path leading toward them, where the sound of hurried footsteps echoed against the stone formations. Whoever was approaching wasn't trying to be stealthy. They were moving with purpose, with frustration, as if the chase had drained them of patience. A shadow flickered through the mist before a figure emerged, a Clician student. His reptilian features were taut with exhaustion and irritation, his dark scales glistened with moisture, his sharp, golden eyes scanning the terrain. He was breathing heavily, his clawed hands tensed as he stopped abruptly at the sight before him. His gaze landed on the Skrin beast and his posture shifted instantly. His exhaustion evaporated, replaced by focused intensity. He didn't seem to register Harry sitting only a few feet away. All he saw was the creature standing still within reach. His breathing quickened, a subtle indication of excitement or perhaps desperation. Harry could see the decision forming in the Clician's mind before he even moved. This was an opportunity, one he wouldn't waste. Then, too fast for hesitation, the Clician lunged. The Skrin beast reacted instantly, a blur of muscle and motion. It twisted away, its sleek body slipping out of reach before the claws could close around it. It didn't retreat completely. Instead, it shifted into a low stance, its silver eyes narrowing as it studied its would-be captor. Harry felt the moment crack like a splintering branch. The delicate balance he had built was collapsing. The Clician, oblivious to the tension thrumming between the three of them, hissed in frustration. He adjusted his stance, preparing for another attempt. Harry moved before he could think. He rose slowly, deliberately, placing himself between the Clician and the beast. His hands remained at his sides, his posture non-threatening, but his intent was unmistakable. He wasn't going to let this happen. The Clician froze, his golden eyes snapping to Harry as if seeing him for the first time. His expression shifted from surprise to confusion, then settled into something colder, calculated. "What are you doing?" His voice was low, rough with exertion. Harry didn't answer immediately. He kept his gaze steady, feeling the weight of the Skrin beast's presence just behind him. It hadn't run, that meant something. "You can't chase it down," Harry said finally, his tone even. "It doesn't work like that." The Clician narrowed his eyes. "You think you understand it?" Harry exhaled through his nose. He didn't rise to the challenge. He had no interest in proving himself in some pointless argument. That wasn't why he was here. "I know that if you try again, it's gone," he said simply. The Clician's tail twitched, a sign of irritation. He shifted his weight, clearly debating his next move. He could still try. He could ignore Harry, take another shot at capturing the beast, but something held him back. Maybe it was the certainty in Harry's voice, or maybe it was the fact that the Skrin beast hadn't bolted the moment Harry stepped between them. Whatever the reason, the Clician hesitated. And in that hesitation, the Skrin beast made its own choice. It stepped forward. Harry didn't turn, didn't risk breaking the fragile moment that had formed again. But he felt it, the subtle shift in the air as the creature moved closer. Not away, not into the mist, but toward him. The Clician saw it too. His expression flickered, something unreadable passing through his gaze. He exhaled sharply, then took a slow step back. "Fine," he muttered, his voice tight with frustration. "Let's see how long that lasts." With that, he turned and disappeared into the mist. Silence settled over the rocky terrain. Harry remained still, his pulse steady despite everything that had just happened. He waited, feeling the weight of the Skrin beast's presence beside him. Then, slowly, he turned his head. The creature stood just inches away now, watching him with those silver eyes, unreadable yet filled with something different. Understanding, perhaps, or something close to it. Harry had never felt it before, but he knew in that moment he had earned something rare, the trust of a legend. Harry remained still, his breathing slow and steady as he met the Skrin beast's gaze. The creature did not flinch, did not retreat. Its silver eyes gleamed in the dim light, reflecting something more than just curiosity. It had made a choice to stay, and that decision carried weight. The air between them was thick with an unspoken understanding, a fragile but undeniable connection. The sounds of the distant chase had begun to fade. The other students were still out there, still hunting, but none of them had come as close as Harry. They were exhausting themselves, running in circles, chasing something they could never catch. Meanwhile, the beast stood here, not because it had been captured, but because it no longer saw a reason to run. Harry let out a slow exhale, careful not to disturb the stillness. He could feel the tension in the creature's muscles, the way its body remained poised to flee at any sign of threat, but it was waiting now, watching him, assessing what would happen next. He shifted his weight slightly, testing the reaction. The beast's ears flicked, but it did not move. He took a small step back, just enough to give it space. The beast's gaze followed him, but it did not take a step in return. It was comfortable where it was. That was the confirmation Harry needed. He reached down slowly, pulling another strip of dried meat from his pack. The Skrin beast's nostrils flared at the scent, but it did not lunge for it. It was not desperate, not starving. It was thinking. Harry crouched, keeping his movements deliberate. He extended his hand, palm up, holding the offering but not forcing it. The beast's tail swayed slightly, a slow, measured motion. It took a step forward, then another. The distance between them vanished. Harry felt the heat of the creature's breath as it lowered its head, sniffing the food, considering. Its ears flicked again, as if listening for something unseen. Then, with precise, careful movements, it took the meat from his hand. Harry remained motionless as the Skrin beast chewed. This was different from before. It wasn't just accepting food, it was acknowledging him. The beast swallowed and lifted its head, its silver eyes locked onto his once more. And this time there was something deeper in them, not just recognition, but something closer to expectation. Then, to his quiet surprise, the beast took another step closer. Harry resisted the urge to move, to react too soon. He let the creature take the lead. It leaned in slightly, sniffing at his arm, then exhaled in a long, slow breath. He felt the warmth of it against his skin. The beast was close enough now that he could see the fine details of its fur, the way the strands shimmered with an almost liquid sheen. It was built for stealth, for speed, but right now, it was standing still, choosing to remain beside him. Something shifted in the air. The beast moved, but not away. Instead, it lowered itself slightly, adjusting its stance, its tail curling around its feet. It was not leaving, it was settling. Harry felt something deep in his chest, something rare. He had seen domesticated animals back on Earth, had watched how trust was built over time, but this was not a domesticated animal. This was a predator, one that had never been tamed, never been understood. And yet, here it was. A rustle in the distance snapped both of them to attention. The Skrin beast's ears flicked up, its body tensing, but it did not run. Harry turned his head, listening. Someone was nearby, moving carefully. He knew the moment wouldn't last forever. Eventually, others would find them. Eventually, the professor would call an end to the trial. But right now, in this moment, Harry knew one thing with absolute certainty. He hadn't caught the Skrin beast. It had chosen him. Harry remained still as the Skrin beast shifted beside him, its muscles tense but no longer poised for flight. The moment of stillness stretched, charged with a silent understanding. He had expected the beast to bolt when danger approached, to return to the safety of the mist and disappear once more. But it didn't. Instead, it stayed. It had chosen to trust him, and that trust was something he would not betray. The rustling in the distance grew louder. Whoever was approaching was moving with careful precision now, no longer running blindly through the terrain. The Skrin beast's ears flicked toward the noise, its silver eyes narrowing as it observed the unseen intruder. It did not show fear, but it was alert, waiting to see how Harry would react. He exhaled slowly and turned his head slightly, catching sight of the approaching figure through the mist. It was the professor. The towering alien moved with calculated ease, his multi-tiered gaze sweeping across the clearing, taking in every detail. His elongated fingers twitched slightly as he adjusted the controls on the device wrapped around his wrist. He had been watching the entire time. Of course he had. Harry didn't move, he didn't speak. He simply let the moment unfold. The professor stopped a few feet away, his gaze settling first on Harry, then shifting to the Skrin beast that stood beside him. There was no mistaking what had happened here. The beast had not been captured, it had not been subdued, it had made a decision of its own. For a long moment, the professor said nothing. Then, finally, he let out a deep, reverberating hum, something close to amusement. "Fascinating," he murmured, his voice laced with something unreadable. "Truly fascinating." Harry remained quiet. He didn't need to explain. The evidence stood beside him, living and breathing, its fur rippling with every slow inhale. The professor tapped a sequence into his wrist device. A soft chime echoed through the rocky terrain, the signal that the test was over. In the distance, the sounds of pursuit faded as the other students stopped their frantic search. The realization would hit them soon that the challenge had ended, that the Skrin beast had already been caught, but not in the way any of them had expected.